Hello all, my name is Leovold. I'm a Masters ranked player in Legends of Runeterra, and today I have something a little special to talk about. Dave Tron and the Legends of Runeterra developers have deputized the community, asking for feedback on tournament, gauntlet, formats, and rewards, and I did already make a small post on their subreddit thread that I'll link below, but I do feel like I wanted to go deeper in detail outside of the thread when I got some time to compile ideas I had for the game, and maybe explain some reasoning a little bit better. So here it is, my Legends of Runeterra competitive wish list as if I were on magical Christmas land for the first time in my life. Now, I will preface these are specifically my ideas. Not all of them are going to be winners or even feasible for the dev team, but since I was given the opportunity to take the floor, I'm going to go crazy and assume everything is possible, throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. Now with that being said, let's start off with my ideas when it specifically comes to Gauntlet. Gauntlet, as a game mode, is a good concept, and probably the least refined idea for the game in my opinion. The depth of the game mode can go as a competitive outlet is exceptional yet unexplored. Having a best of 3 game mode is a great way for new competitive players to dip their toes into the tournament scene, but there are some major flaws with it currently. The lack of incentive to play in the already competitive community, such as myself and other seasonal grinders, and the lack of availability as it's only open on weekends. To tackle these issues, I'd propose a few different changes. First and foremost, better pricing or rewards for the game mode. Currently we have 2 different icons, one for participating and one for achieving a prime glory, neither of which matter as icons are basically invisible most of the time and mean very little to the player base. What I would suggest is exclusive cosmetics that aren't purchasable be offered, perhaps on a season-long basis. Get a certain number of prime glories or match wins in a gauntlet by season ends, and you'll get an exclusive skin or something else for your work. I have a few ideas to offer for reward options, but we'll cover those later. Secondly, we have the availability issue. Gauntlet should be open 24/7 as an on-demand best of 3 game mode to give the player base something to do. It generally feels bad trying to grind for seeding for seasonals on ladder and feeling like once you get to that spot, you just can't play the game in order to keep your seeding spot. So having an alternative way to play and practice for seasonals would be a big improvement overall for the competitive scene. And good news! There's a proven way to solve both of these issues at once from this borderline archaic game called Magic the Gathering. Specifically in Magic the Gathering Online, their predecessor to MTG Arena, they have this game mode called Leagues. You pay a small amount of in-game currency and pick your deck and play 5 rounds on your schedule and get as many wins as possible. The more wins you get, the better the rewards you earn by the end. A system like this not only makes it more accessible for players to actually try the game mode, but it gives players more to play for at the top end of the competitive spectrum. You can even have a free-to-play version so everyone can just hop in and play the mode for some small prizes like prismatics every week, or charging a few dollars worth of coins to upgrade the pricing at the end to exclusive rewards at the top. I for one would buy into something like this pretty regularly, as those putting money in will likely offer me better practice at testing for seasonal lineups. Also, exclusive stuff is pretty! You could even take this up a notch and charge even more for entry to put cash prizes for top performers. Moving on from Gauntlet, let's talk about some changes I like to see in the tournament scene. First and foremost, I think an adjustment to the tiebreaker system is very much needed for seasonal seeding. It ultimately discourages players from playing the game, at least at higher levels, in order to secure the 7-2 seeding for each seasonal. The problem is, it's the main reason for ladder to matter at all, besides base qualification, so taking away the main reason to grind ladder is not a great idea. Worlds qualifications helps with that, but however, I don't think it's going to be enough for the majority of the player base. I would suggest implementing decay to discourage camping or exclusive cosmetic rewards for a top 8 or front page ladder finish come end of season. Another thing I would like to see that will likely never happen would be a decklist tab in-game on the UI for open decklist formats such as the seasonal tournaments or best of 3 challenge modes. Right now, either we have to go to a third-party website to track cards in the opponent's list by typing in their code to play optimally, or during seasonals, making multiple screenshots and throwing them into something like Photoshop or MS Paint or something on a second monitor. Second monitor being a key factor here, I think implementing a tab for open deck lists in the in-game UI for these game modes would be beneficial to mobile gamers or those without a second monitor available, making optimal play and ultimately competitive play more accessible overall. To support the grassroots scene, implementing a tournament code API or custom lobbies could prove beneficial. Along with a place inclined to find tournaments on the regular, it could also remove the I have to add all of my opponents in-game part of the community tournaments, streamlining them a little bit more. So in regards to a lot of my changes, I mentioned exclusive cosmetics and potential rewards for specifically the gauntlet winners and top ladder finishes. Here are a few ideas I've got for potential options in the cosmetic space to entice players into these game modes and competition in general. First off, animated or extended art cards would be something I'd personally would love to play for, especially if they were for non-champion cards as well. Even if it's something as simple as like Mystic Shot having a swirling effect looks like it's flying through the air would be interesting to have as a competitive trophy of sorts. Another potential option would be having different colored prismatic borders to give them some unique flair. Prismatics as a whole have left a lot to be desired in the community from what I've been told, and I think adding in some extra way to personalize the cards could be a way to remedy that without taking too much time or resources from LoR devs at all. Last but not least, specifically for ladder top finishes each season, I'd like to see LoR's take on the Victorious skin line. It's something League of Legends has done for a while to give ranked players an incentive to play and reach higher levels. Granted, they get the skin starting at gold rank, and hitting gold in LoR is not especially difficult, so maybe making this something for like the higher echelons of ranked leaderboards as a reason to grind ladder could be an option. Another thing they touched on in the snapshot was formats for the game and what would excite me as a player. I for one have two things here, such as the return of Singleton and like a custom game like format creator. But a big one for me would be best of 3 ranked ladder. It was heavily preferred for me back when I played Magic more extensively, and having a way to routinely test lineups on demand would be a huge upgrade for the game in my opinion. This could be done in Gauntlet instead of ranked queue, but the thing is here is an on-demand option for best of 3 games. One unique format idea I've been wanting to toy with at some point was a best of 5 format, where players would bring 5 decks each and ban 2 from the opposition. I think it would greatly test deck building skills as well as lineup synergy for players, while also giving some more fringe archetypes time in the sun by simply needing to play more decks for a full lineup. I think this would be nice to dabble with some as a specialty format on like the irregular side of things. So when it comes to the devs' particular questions, I've pretty much covered everything here by now. However, I do have 2 ideas for significantly later down the line for the game and its community that I would like to see as an ideal scenario. To start off, in-person events like LANs for the game would be really nice to give me an excuse to travel and meet some of the many friends I've made playing the game. Personally, I'd like to see something like Worlds be an in-person event someday, or at least the finals. The community itself is superb compared to other competitive games I've been involved in. I'd like to see the opportunity to meet up with some of them at the very least. One last thing I'd think would benefit from the game long-term is a public beta environment for new sets and balance patches. Early access can be kind of hit or miss, especially with a smaller window to test and not many people actually playing the game to find the problems or balance issues since it's limited to mostly content creators. I think offering a beta server would help offset these issues and find some of the problem archetypes or cards before they hit the live server and stay there for weeks or more that could potentially hurt the health of the game in the future. Remember the Shuriman Desert? Kai'Sa release patch? Stress Defense Nexus? I sure do. Maybe let's not do that. Also, a big thing that the game needs is more advertising and publicity. It's a fantastic game, but I hardly see anything about it. Almost as if LoR is a Riot afterthought, which I don't believe is the case. I think with some additional support with buy-in tournaments, which if it wasn't clear, I'm all for it, and some competitive revamping, plugging how the game is entering a new era of the, like on the League client or even just advertising on the World Wide Web could help bring the revenue it needs to expand its pricing support and start the snowball rolling down the hill to bury WotC in an avalanche made for better economy and accessibility to the card game space. Personally, I think Legends of Runeterra is the best competitive card game on market, period. It still has some optimization in my eyes when it comes to competition accessibility and pricing, but it looks like the devs reaching out, they're looking for ways to improve on these things. I hope some of the ideas expressed in this piece help along the way, whether they use them or not. I want to see them succeed for a number of reasons, and I am intent to help them along the way however I can. Even incoherent rants on the internet like this one. I hope my personal opinions and concepts were of interest to you, and I'd like to thank you all that stuck it out until the end. May you all reach your competitive goals, whether it be hitting Masters for the first time or taking the podium of Worlds coming up. My name is Leovold, and I will see you all around.